Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. Happy Thursday, everybody, on this August 29th of 2024. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in. I appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day, and there is so much to get to. Howie Roseman continues to make moves on this Eagles roster. Philadelphia actually just claimed a former third-round pick from the Las Vegas Raiders at defensive tackle. The big news of the day is that James Bradberry is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. He hurt a tendon in his foot and ankle. Could the Eagles make a surprising change at the linebacker spot? We're going to do a deep dive, taking a look at the Eagles wide receiver room. And of course, this is the best show for all Eagles fans to interact. We're going to do a mailbag, so use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to be a part of the show. Already 170 people watching live. To everybody who has those notifications on, I want you to type real one in the chat because that really does support the show when you hit that bell icon. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show, you will be notified. And let's also pop up this poll question here. Do the Eagles have the best wide receiver trio in the National Football League? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Taking a look at the comment section here, I see Kane Angel is here, Go Birds, Dennis Designs, E-Money Bentley, Carol Hosey, Jorwin, Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones, Brody Hester, Jaden Fire, David Gwanzin, Football United, Lanky, Aaron Taylor, BMX. It's good to see some real ones in the building. As you venture in here, please make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and you like the video. If you do want to get on the show as part of our mailbag segment, we'll do that segment number 4. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. I'm really excited to talk Eagles today because every day I get in front of this camera, throw on this headset, it's always an honor to talk birds with the Bird Gang here. And if you're ready to start the show, almost 200 people watching live, we should be able to get at least 100 likes. Then hit that thumbs up icon and like the video here because Philadelphia making a roster move a little earlier this afternoon. And we're going to talk about what that means. The corresponding roster move, the Eagles have let go of Marlon Tuipulotu. So he made the initial 53-man roster for Philadelphia, but the Eagles clearly think that the player that they claimed off waivers is a better option at the defensive tackle spot. If my guy Timon the Buckeye is watching, he messaged me and said, I can't comment on Eagles. I'm not sure what happened. We made you the moderator last week, I believe, here on this channel. You did a tremendous job. So we didn't block you. I went and looked at that. We're trying to figure it out. The Timon the Buckeye is a real one here at Chat Sports. Not sure what happened, but we'll try to get that in order. Almost 200 people watching live. 60 likes. 4 segments to get to. Plenty of news to talk about. Philadelphia Eagles now starts right now. Live on Chat Sports. Chase Sr., Jake Chipper here with you and the Bird Gang tuned in from every pocket of America and worldwide. Let's go. All right, let's do it. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. So many talented content creators out there and media members who cover the Eagles. So anytime you decide to hang out here with us on Eagles Now, we greatly appreciate that. What we're talking about on the show here today, Philadelphia's made a series of roster moves this afternoon on this Thursday, August 29th. So let's talk about them. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, with this news a little bit earlier this afternoon that the Eagles have claimed defensive tackle Byron Young off of waivers per source. The corresponding roster move here for Philadelphia, they have released defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu, who made the Eagles' initial 53-man roster. This is certainly an intriguing move made by Howie Roseman and company here because Young does have some pedigree. He was a third-round pick by the Las Vegas Raiders last year in the 2023 NFL Draft. So, of course, his stock falls with the Raiders. The Eagles clearly like him enough to add him to the active roster. because they let go of a player in Patullo who they drafted in the latter rounds a couple of years ago, and he's played some decent snaps for the Eagles. Young is 6'3", 292 pounds, so he is a smaller defensive tackle, but he's still only 23 years old. He played at Alabama from 2019 through 2022. He won a national championship playing for Nick Saban's defense back during the 2020 season. He was a second-team All-SEC member during the 2022 campaign, his final year playing in college, but last year just couldn't really get off the ground for Las Vegas. Only 6 games as a rookie and literally did nothing. He was waived this week by the Raiders after not making that 53-man roster. And we know this about Eagles general manager Howie Roseman, right? He loves taking chances on players with high draft pedigree. And that is a team-building strategy that I agree with, because the Eagles show those players that they believe in their player development program. And if you come to Philadelphia, we're really going to work hard from Howie's standpoint to try to maximize your capabilities, maximize your talent level. And at the end of the day, for Byron Young, he's going from a dysfunctional organization that hasn't won anything in a couple of decades to the Eagles, who since the turn of this century have been one of the most successful organizations in the National Football League. Unfortunately, the word is, up to this point for Byron Young, that he's a lazy player. And he knew that he was on the roster bubble going into 2024, yet he was non-existent in the preseason. He did have a sack week 3 of the preseason against the San Francisco 49ers, but it was more so a sack in which the play fell into his lap. From his standpoint, he's probably also looking at the Eagles as an organization that, number one, has had success, as I mentioned, but they've also had a lot of success with developing defensive tackles throughout this current regime, but also throughout the franchise's history. He does need to get in better shape. He does not have a great anchor, and sometimes he gets pushed back by backup offensive linemen, but he was a solid player at Alabama. The fact that he was a third-round pick, probably attractive for Philadelphia, and that's the reason why they're deciding to add him to this active roster and bring him in to this player development program. Of note, as I noted, he does get added to the active roster, and we are waiting for what that corresponding roster move was going to be. The corresponding roster move making another move at defensive tackle to make room for Byron Young. We are closing in on 80,000 subscribers, and I've been really hitting this over the last couple of days. It's my goal to get to 80,000 subs before week 1. We are definitely going to get there, and it's my goal during the 2024 season to get that silver plaque from YouTube to reach 100,000 subscribers, because that's quite the honor and quite the milestone, especially for a guy who grew up in the Philadelphia area, who's making his dreams come true and covering the Birds, and the same can be said for producer Chet. So hit that sub button for daily shows on the Birds. More roster moves to get to for the Eagles here. Oren Burks has been added to the active roster. This coming after James Bradberry was placed on IR, and we talked about the news pertaining to James Bradberry a little bit earlier today. That video is up on the channel. Ian Rappaport broke that this morning on this Thursday that James Bradberry suffered a lower leg injury during yesterday's practice. Although surgery is not required, the injury involves a tendon, and the recovery time for an injury of this magnitude, 6 to 8 weeks. That's a long period of time. Rappaport adding that Philadelphia's secondary depth takes a hit with the season looming. That said, James Bradberry should be back with plenty of time for the second half of the season. Again, full breakdown of my thoughts on that injury up on the channel. I do think it's somewhat significant that the Eagles are looking ahead to week 1 with the regular season starting in 2 Fridays, a little more than a week away, and at a position in which they don't have a lot of depth at safety. They lose a depth safety option. Why I thought the Eagles kept James Bradberry on the initial 53 to begin with, first of all, his contract. If the Eagles let him go, they would have had to have eaten $4.3 million. They have those aforementioned depth issues. Howie Roseman values Bradberry's positional versatility. He's not much of a corner anymore, but he can play outside, inside, and at safety. There really was no trade market. Further now, his trade market has diminished. Vic Fangio did applaud his switch to the safety spot, but from what I saw, he really did struggle at that new position during the preseason. I was surprised that Oren Burks, the corresponding roster move here, did come back to Philadelphia. Now, he is a vested veteran, so he did not have to clear through waivers. He was free to sign with any team across the NFL. And I thought that he was going to get some suitors and some people were going to bite because he has been a very good special teams player throughout his career. So at the very least, his special teams value really does help the Eagles here. Some insight on Burks. He was a 2018 third-round pick by the Packers. He was with Green Bay 2019 through 2021 with the San Francisco 49ers the last 2 years. Pretty experienced player. 91 career games, 15 starts. Last year, as part of that Niners linebacker rotation, he did start to see some time as an off-ball linebacker, did struggle a little bit. Though, in the preseason finale against the Minnesota Vikings, I thought Vic Fangio used him masterfully. As a blitzer, he got aggressive with Burks in the box, and Burks made a couple of really good plays. I just thought that Philadelphia valued Ben Van Sumeren, a younger player, a little bit more than Burks, which is why Burks didn't make the initial 53. Van Sumeren did 176 career tackles for Oren Burks as well. And then lastly, offensive lineman Brett Toth has been added to the practice squad. He was not a vested veteran, so he did have to clear through waivers. No other team decided to add him to the active roster. Philadelphia likes his positional versatility because he could play all 5 offensive line spots, and a lot of people are familiar with Brett Toth. He's played in 20 games for the Eagles, mostly as a reserve, only 2 starts during that time frame, and he did play his college ball at Army. Thank you, sir, for your service. Real John shirts are available. You can get them today. Chatsports.com/RealJohn. The word John, synonymous with the city of Philadelphia, available in Kelly green as well as black. We will put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's Eagles Now. Really appreciate everybody's support. We're setting records here on Eagles Now, and we're going to continue to keep it moving because we're not satisfied with being great. We want to be greater. Did get a super chat come in from Ascend Sports Academy. $2 super chat, year 2 with my guy Chase. Thanks for the great content. Salute to you and salute to everybody else. If we do get a $50 super chat during the live stream, I will shotgun a happy dad. That's what I'm doing for all of the legends out there. If you want to get on the show, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. We are only ramping up and only getting started on today's edition of Eagles Now Live. Shout out to the recent commenter club, Carol Hosey, Arthur Porter, Dennis Designs, Don Ackerley, Brian Bidding, Antonio Roberts, Antonio Holmes. We go back-to-back Antonios. And let me welcome on Chip. We had to get the show started because we were running a little bit late, but Chip, how you doing? How you living? What's going on?
Oh, I am doing fantastic, baby. We are a week and a day from the start of Eagles football, a week from the start of NFL football, baby. We got college football on this weekend. My Clemson Tigers gonna take down those dogs, baby. Everyone's hating on us. Everyone's hating on us. But Will Shipley knows. Jeremiah Trotter knows. Justin Ross, I almost said. Joseph Guider knows. He knows too. He knows what Clemson's about, baby.
So I'm going out to Las Vegas, and the reason I'm going out there, little Chat Sports college football trip to catch USC LSU. So college football was back last weekend. We saw a great game between Georgia Tech and Florida State. We were talking about that game during the Eagles preseason finale. Tonight, Shadur Sanders, and Colorado take on North Dakota State. North Dakota State might put the Buffaloes on upset alert. I know UNC is playing, and then college games all throughout the weekend. It's absolutely beautiful. Cannot wait for it. 253 people watching live, 106 likes. Do us a favor, continue to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Coming up next, the Eagles have gotten more great news. What that great news is, well, stay tuned to find out. Here we go. Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and coming up here on the docket, the Birds getting some more great news. What is that great news? The fact that they might arguably have the best wide receiver trio in the National Football League. So we're going to pose that question, and we're going to do a deep dive into that question. We're going to take a gander at what A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jahan Dotson bring to the table, to this receiving core for Philadelphia, and how this and key offensive changes will help quarterback Jalen Hurts get back on track here in 2024. Naturally, we pop up today's poll question. I want to hear from you down in the comment section. Do the Eagles, in fact, have the best wide receiver trio in the league? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Now, the Eagles are certainly loaded at this position, but it starts and ends with A.J. Brown. What a trade acquisition during the draft a couple of drafts ago, and he has ended up changing the complexion of this organization, the path of this Eagles offense. He's helped out Jalen Hurts, and his production as an Eagle has been incredible since he came to Philadelphia. He really is this generation's Julio Jones with the body type, the game, and the numbers that he's been able to put up with the Eagles, but also with the Tennessee Titans. And keep in mind, he had bad quarterback play in Tennessee. That hasn't been the case with the Eagles. Year one really helps that Eagles offense take off with Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, calling the plays. He was also a big reason why Jalen Hurts was runner-up in NFL MVP voting behind Patrick Mahomes. And if Hurts didn't injure his shoulder late in the year against Chicago, I actually think Hurts would have been named NFL MVP. But him missing some time there hurt his chances. But A.J. Brown's numbers did not suffer. 145 targets, 88 catches, nearly 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 17 yards per catch year one for A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. He really did get going with an absolute boom. And then last year, I know it was a frustrating year for him, but he still put up insane production, and in back-to-back years, he was a second-team All-Pro at a very deep position across the NFL. The targets went up to $158, receptions went up past the century mark at 106. The yards did go down, touchdowns did go down, and then the yards per catch did decrease. But we know some of the issues that happened with that Eagles offense during the 2023 campaign. And when you look at those numbers, take a screenshot, because it's worth remembering and it's worth noticing that A.J. Brown literally has had the two best years for a wide receiver consecutively in the history of this Eagles organization. And with him signing that contract extension this offseason, getting $32 million average annual value, the numbers that he's put up the previous 2 years, and what he can continue to do, he's going to be in the conversation for being the best Eagles wide receiver of all time. Now, this is an organization that has had a lot of great wide receivers throughout this organization's history. Mike Quick is the best. Harold Carmichael right behind him. Tommy McDonald right back in the day. And then you had some OGs when teams weren't really passing the football that much, yet they still put up some really good numbers. And Pete Retzlaff, and then Pete Pihos. You had Deshaun Jackson, an electrifying vertical playmaker. I think A.J. Brown is already the seventh best wide receiver in the history of this team, despite only playing 2 years. And he's ahead of Terrell Owens because Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb really only paired up for 1 year. That 1 year was magical, made it to the Super Bowl. T.O. played in that Super Bowl 39 against the Patriots with screws in his ankle. And if the Eagles won, he would have won Super Bowl MVP. But he just didn't have the longevity, and I hope that A.J. Brown can have that longevity. What makes him special in my eyes, it's the speed, size, and strength combo. It really is a unique blend, and that's why I kind of throw out that Julio Jones comp. But he can also go long. He can muscle up defenders and break tackles. That little spin around off that in route is just such a great play, allowing him to pick up yards after the catch. He's really elusive in doing that. He has a complete route tree. You can tell that he cares about his craft with the way that he goes about his route running and his footwork. And he's a reliable pass catcher. He does not drop a lot of footballs. Now, for as good as A.J. Brown is, don't sleep on Devontae Smith. For a lot of other teams across the NFL, Smitty, Skinny Batman, he would be a number one wideout. And it was great to see the Eagles finally hit on a wide receiver in the NFL draft. And they did it in a big way with Smith, who each year that he's been in the NFL, I think he's shown some sizable improvements. Year one, with the young quarterback in Jalen Hurts, he had really good production. 64 catches, 916 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Year two, the production that him and A.J. Brown had was sensational. 95 grabs, almost 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And then last year, a frustrating year for the Eagles offensively, but they still put up some really, really good numbers. And it's amazing the deal that Howie Roseman was able to sign Devontae Smith to. And I loved what he said after signing that deal. You can't worry about other people's pockets. That's what he had to say. With the wide receiver market exploding, he could have held out. He could have demanded more. He could have played another year. And then if he had a good campaign here in 2024, he could have asked for 28 to 30. He wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle. That's awesome. So to get him at $25 million per season, guaranteed money at $51 million, a steal for the Eagles, and they can keep A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the field together as a great wide receiver duo for the foreseeable future. What makes Smith special? Different player than A.J. Brown. He's smaller, more slender. He's quicker. Great footwork, fast footwork, awesome route running. I think he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. Skinny, slender, but a slippery athlete who I think is underrated at breaking tackles from time to time, but making people miss in the open field. You run some crossers for him, it can be night-night for the defense. He also plays bigger than his size along the sideline and just overall in general. When he's going down the field, he can really go up, climb the ladder, and come down with those 50-50 balls. He won the Heisman Trophy his last year at Alabama, and that college production has carried over into his pro production. He's been a great player at both levels, and I think the best is yet to come for a player like A.J. Brown, who really is devoted to his craft and becoming a great player in this league. This is a tough poll question, but we like to ask tough questions here on this show because we like to get the brain churning a little bit. Who has more receiving yards this year? Past 2 years, it's been A.J. Brown. Does Devontae Smith beat him out? DS for Smith, A.J. for A.J. Brown. Let me know. And then the third portion of this wide receiver duo is Jahan Dotson, a player who I'm higher on as compared to others. And just a reminder, with this trade that was done between Philadelphia and Washington, really since I've been alive, certainly since the turn of the century, which organization scouting department would you trust more? Which team would you trust more to scout players? It's Philadelphia over Washington, and it's not even close. So I'll take the Eagles taking a chance on Dotson over Washington's evaluation of letting him go. Comes to the Eagles with pedigree. 16th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And in 2 years with bad quarterback play, 84 catches, more than 1,000 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That is impressive touchdown production. I think people are also going to like his positional versatility. He can play inside. He can play outside. So now with Jahan Dotson and with Devontae Smith, both of those players, depending on the matchup, can play X wide out. They can play out of the slot. I also really like the financials of this trade for the Eagles. Dotson has at least 2 more years left on his deal. Philadelphia can exercise that 5th-year option if they want to gain another year of team control. And how about the base salary? $1.57 million this year, $2.76 million in 2025. And I know a lot of people didn't like how Howie gave up a 3rd-round pick for Dotson. They did give up a 3rd, but they still have a 3rd from Miami in the 2025 NFL Draft. And it's not like you're asking Dotson to be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. You are asking Jahan Dotson to be wide receiver 3 and weapon number 5 on this Eagles offense. Naturally, the defense is going to be honed in on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. And it's going to lead to a lot of open opportunities for Jahan Dotson, I think, to live up to the expectations of being that 1st-round pick. Coming out of Penn State, my previous job, I scouted him when he was with the Nittany Lions. I loved his pass-catching ability. the natural hands. He did lead the Commanders in drop rate last year, so that's a little bit of a concern. But again, I'm going to put my trust in the Eagles scouting department and their coaching staff over Washington's, because throughout my entire lifetime, Washington has been an abysmal organization. I know they have a new owner. I know they have a new general manager and a new coaching staff, but still, it's the Eagles over the Commanders any day. And this Eagles offense, I think, becomes more difficult to defend with Jahan Dotson and a legitimate wide receiver 3 as compared to not having a good wide receiver 3. Dotson is so much better than Paris Campbell. He's leaps and bounds better than a player like John Ross. Anaya Smith is hurt. Johnny Wilson is a rookie. Britton Covey, I like him. More of a possession wide receiver. But when you have a legitimate wide receiver 3 who's very affordable, you still hold on to that third-round pick, and you pair him with the weapons on this team, endless options for Philadelphia. And that weaponry, combined with Kellen Moore's scheme, play calling, play design, and the talent of Jalen Hurts, we've seen him play at an elite level. That's why I think that Hurts is going to be able to have a monster year. The Eagles were dead last in pre-snap motion last year. It's a crime for that to be the case in today's modern NFL. But Kellen Moore is going to run a lot of pre-snap motion, and that was on display during the preseason. That will lead to easier looks, easier passes, easier completions, and weapons running open frequently for the Eagles offense this year. And last year, everything seemed so hard. Everything was predictable. This offense was vanilla. This year, I think we're going to see a lot of creativity, and this offensive system is just going to be a smarter offensive system as compared to last year when the Eagles really missed Shane Steichen. Be sure to give me a follow on social media. In addition to long-form content here on Eagles Now on YouTube, I put out a lot of short-form Eagles content on my social media pages. And don't be a stranger. Always say what's up. So back to that poll question here. Who has more receiving yards? DS for Devontae Smith, AJ for AJ Brown. Who you got? Chip, who do you got?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. I'm probably still going to ride with AJ. I just feel like he's still the number one. Even they're both number ones. It's not, putting one over the other necessarily. I just think AJ is such a dominant physical force.
Yeah.
I still think he's the guy who leads in receiving yards, but I think they both have over 1,000 pretty easily again. I think Smitty can get close to 1,200 as opposed to the just over 1,000 he's had. But AJ, man, 1,400 kind of seems like a shoo-in to me, man. I'm going AJ.
I love it. Yeah, I'm in agreement on that. If A.J. Brown stays healthy, he's going to lead this team in receiving. But this is a great problem to have when you have two studs at the wide receiver spot like this and make it three players who I think are really, really good. So I do want to give a shout-out to somebody special who's been watching this show for a long time and is a big fan of mine. My stepsister, Lauren, texted me today, and she said the old principal at my school is back filling in as an interim, and I found out he's a big Chat Sports and Chase Senior fan. So if you get a chance, give Mark Schellinger, I think I'm pronouncing that right, a shout out. So Mark, thanks for watching the show. My stepsister approached him, and they were talking about the James Bradberry injury. And Mark said, yeah, I heard about that on Eagles Now by Chat Sports. And I think my stepsister was like, wait, my stepbrother is the host of that channel.
No way.
We don't have the same last name, so he probably didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it came as a little bit of a surprise. But Mark, you're a real one. Thanks for watching the show. And how about that? A pretty cool story.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark.
Crazy.
Shout out to Mark.
Hey, we need some questions in here, man. If y'all want to do a mailbag, we got to get some questions rolling in. Right now, we got one question from Carol Hosey.
From Carol Hosey. Also, shout out to Kane Angel for being a great moderator during our preseason finale against the Minnesota Vikings. You did an awesome job, and we can count on you during some of our watch parties.
I tell you what, you don't understand how big of a help that is for us.
Huge help, because it's a distraction for us.
Yeah, and it just fills up the chat, and then the people in the chat see it, and you can't see other people's chats. It's really a big help.
Yeah, it is. Carol Hosey said, I got your back. What up, Carol? All right, let's move forward to segment number 3. And like Chip said, if you want to get on the show, if you want us to do a mailbag, we need questions to answer from you. So hashtag Eagles, send in a super chat. If you send in a super chat, you're guaranteed to be on the show.
We are what? A week away from football. There's got to be something on your mind. Your chance to be on Eagles Now, baby. Tell your friends.
The mods are awesome, aren't they, Brian? Because for us, if we have to do it, it takes away from the broadcast. I'm trying to do play-by-play, analyze the game, and I'm like, I got to block these bots. Chip's trying to pop up graphics. Super chats are going crazy. So, big help. Big help. All right, segment number 3. Let's talk defense here. And could the Eagles be making a surprising change at the linebacker spot? Let's get into it. Here's what's coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic weekend. Isn't this crazy? We are less than a week away from game day for the Birds. More on that in a second. 2 stories I want to get to here. Could Philadelphia make a surprising change at the starting off-ball linebacker role? This might shock you a little bit. I also want to talk about an incredible story that involves this mystery defensive lineman who came out of nowhere to make this Eagles 53-man roster. Circling back to week 1, Eagles, Packers in Brazil, Friday night. We'll be doing a watch party for it right here on this channel with the 90-minute pregame show. You don't want to miss it. It's the best place to experience game day outside of being at the actual game. So subscribe to join us for that, but also for daily shows on the Birds. Who you got in week 1? PHI for the Eagles, GB for the Green Bay Packers. I'm rolling with the Eagles. So back to story number 1. Could the Birds be making a surprising change at the linebacker spot? And could Nakobe Dean start at off-ball linebacker, not ahead of Zach Bond, but ahead of Devin White? Throughout training camp, this has never come into question. It's been believed to be Devin White and whoever else. Devin White, a shoo-in to start for this team at off-ball linebacker, looking to rebound from a couple of down years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has consistently gotten first-team reps. Opposite of him, it's been mostly Zach Bond, but Nakobe Dean has come around as of late with a couple of really good weeks of practices, the joint practice against New England, practicing well against his teammates, and then in the preseason, he played well and played so well, he didn't even dress in the preseason finale against the Minnesota Vikings. So you're looking at a linebacker situation for Philadelphia going into week 1, which might be unsolved. And we could see a big switch up here. Now, there are a couple of players in the mix. It's Devin White, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean. I don't think we're going to see Jeremiah Trotter, Ben Van Sumeren, or Oren Burks, because I more so think they're special teams players here in 2024. But Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer, maybe the most trusted Eagles insider who's on the beat covering this team every day, he dropped this nugget. Don't be surprised if Nakobe Dean is starting at middle linebacker ahead of Devin White in week 1. He outplayed the former Buccaneer. The Eagles also have more invested in the former third-rounder, although $3.5 million of White's $4 million one-year contract was guaranteed. Can Vic Fangio keep him happy if he's at best a part-timer? Zach Bond appears to have successfully made the full-time switch to off-ball linebacker based off of his summer. Can he be as productive in real games? Trotter has a future on defense, but likely will have to bide his time on special teams. Van Sumeren's special teams contributions helped him beat out Oren Burks, who missed most of camp with a knee injury. I got to be honest, this would be really surprising if it came true, because I'm a believer in Devin White's game and his athleticism. He is special when he can play aggressive, not overthink, not hesitate, not be indecisive, and fire on all cylinders while blitzing the quarterback. Just an elite athlete. And this preseason, I've liked what I've seen from defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who I think is going to allow this defense to be much better leaps and bounds in 2024 as compared to the dumpster fire that was last year. Vic Fangio has blitzed a lot, and he's blitzed his linebackers a lot. That taps into the potential and the strengths of Devin White, who I think would be a good scheme fit if he can be utilized as a blitzer. Devin White is also young. He's also been an all-pro in this league. He can cover, he can stuff the run, and he can be involved in the pass rush when he's playing well. Why is his stock fallen? He did request a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was shot down and not fulfilled. He wanted a new deal from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They didn't pay him. Instead, they paid other homegrown players. And sometimes because of his aggressiveness, because of his speed and physicality, he can over-pursue. He can take himself out of plays. That has hurt him at times. But there are certainly flashes. The Super Bowl run in 2020, when he was a dynamic player who made his impact be felt game in, game out during that Super Bowl run, when Tom Brady led the Buccaneers to their second Super Bowl in franchise history. And in camp, we've seen some flashes when he's covered Saquon Barkley out of the backfield on wheel routes, and he's come through with some pass breakups. Vic Fangio has done a great job throughout his NFL career of coaching up and developing the linebacker position. Now, as McClain pointed out, starting Nakobe Dean isn't necessarily a bad thing. He's a former third-round pick. He was the best off-ball linebacker in college football for those Georgia teams. It's just surprising that the Eagles aren't at least maybe going to give Devin White an opportunity to prove that he can be the starting off-ball linebacker for this team. Because if McClain is saying it, it's something that we have to monitor. He has sources inside that organization. He breaks news all the time. And when he says things like this, it has weight. So this is today's poll question. Who will be the starting off-ball linebackers week 1, Friday night, against the Green Bay Packers? Will it be Devin White, Zach Bond? Will it be Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond? Will it be Devin White, Nakobe Dean? Let me know down in the comments section. Our Real John shirts, we're sending these everywhere. Chatsports.com/RealJohn. If you want to look fresh, have a shirt that's a conversation starter that shows that you love Philadelphia, the Eagles, and Eagles Now, this is your answer. Chatsports.com/RealJohn. Check them out. Get yours today. Thomas Booker, the defensive tackle who surprisingly made the 53-man roster. What a story he has been. He's 24 years old, surprised a lot of people in making this Eagles team. He was a 2020 fifth-round pick out of Stanford by the Houston Texans. Got banged up year 1 after playing a few games, and then the Eagles signed him to their practice squad last year. He was on the Eagles practice squad for the entirety of the season. And Howie Roseman was blown away by the strides, the development, the improvements that Booker's been able to make, and the grind and the work ethic that he displayed. He said during the offseason, during training camp and in the preseason, there was a few guys, obviously, who were putting in that work in the gym and the weight room. One of those guys who impressed him, Thomas Booker. And Booker's been able to have this newfound perspective after things didn't work out with Houston and being on a practice squad last year. Here's what he said. Not being able to kind of strap it up and play was definitely one of those things where it makes you sit there and say, wow, I need to be out there. I felt that before, but the urgency was different. I feel like going through that last year, I think just the appreciation for the opportunity that you have becomes even greater. And how about this? Remember former Eagle Connor Barwin, who had a couple of really productive seasons for the Eagles? He was a big free agent acquisition for Chip Kelly. And back in 2013, Barwin had 5 sacks. In 2014, 14.5. 2015, 7. And 2016, 5. He was a good player for Philadelphia. And before that, with Houston, he's now helping to lead the Eagles player development program. And Howie Roseman credited Connor Barwin for heading the Eagles player development program and helping to maximize a player like Thomas Booker. Here's what the Eagles general manager said about Booker. When you see his tape and his get-off and his ability to play with leverage, to play with power, to affect the quarterback, to be disruptive around the quarterback in the backfield, to us, it was clear the guy deserved to be on the team. And we warned you about 2 weeks ago that Thomas Booker had an opportunity to make this team with how he was playing in the preseason, the tape that I had watched, but also I always think the words of the organization are important. Vic Fangio went out of his way to compliment Thomas Booker, who was very active in that second preseason game. And at that moment, I'm like, I think Thomas Booker has a chance to make the initial 53. That's why I had him on my roster projection. And I just think that stories like this are awesome. When a player doesn't work out for another team, you have him on the practice squad, you don't see him at all last year, then during the offseason, he grinds, he hustles, he works hard, he's in the lab improving his craft, he's motivated, so not only physically is he getting better, but mentally he's getting better. And then it all works out where he turns heads throughout training camp in the preseason and ends up making this team and comes out of nowhere to be maybe the biggest training camp surprise for the Eagles here. If you want more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I think that we offer something very special on this show, and that's a big reason why we're the largest independently run Eagles channel right here on YouTube. Recent Commenter Club, Greg Miller, Antonio Holmes, Connor Spencer, Derby, Brian, Kane Angel, Carol, all in the chat right now. Nearly 300 people watching live.
Brian Bidding, what up? The Eagles' season comes down to their offense. I mean, you definitely need to see them respond from the way things ended last season. Those first couple weeks are going to be big, man. I won't say just week one. You never know. It could take a couple weeks, but if we're 4 or 5 weeks in and they haven't figured it out, they're only 2-3 to the first 5 games, man. Going to be worrying. For sure.
Brazzy Smacks back in the building. What's up, Brazzy? It's been a while. Brian Reed. Anything is better than the dumpster fire on defense last year. I agree. All right, how are we doing on questions? Do we have enough for a mailbag? One question. You just don't want us to do a mailbag, people, do you? Let's see. We did 4 segments. 1 will go today. 3 segments. That's right. This would be the 4th. So I going to Las Vegas. I need something on Monday, Sunday. I can make it work if we don't do a mailbag. Yeah.
There's one from Kane. Now we have 2 questions.
I'm concerned about Maddox. What is best for him? I would be concerned about Maddox because he's a backup who can play slot and play safety. I actually like the positional versatility as a depth piece. Is this game on local channel 10 as well as Peacock? I think it is satire. Yeah, the local markets for these Peacock games, they'll always broadcast that game on local television so that you don't have to get Peacock. It's not a bad move by the NFL. But if you don't live in the Philadelphia area, you have to get a Peacock subscription. Brazzy Smacks. What is the real deal with wide receiver 3? Is Dotson going to be the real deal? I think that Dotson can play, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I really do. All right. Let's do this. 2-minute Super Chat shot clock. If anybody wants to continue the show, send in a Super Chat. If not, we're out of here. We will be live next week, of course, and then live again for an Eagles-Packers watch party.
2 minutes. Dos.
Michael
minutos.
Gutierrez. Is Merrill Reese doing play-by-play this season? Yes. Of course. The GOAT is back once again. Satire took off work to watch the game. Nice.
Yes, sir. It's how it's done. It's football season.
Oh, Brandon Ayuk contract extension. All right. Thanks to everybody for watching. We're out of here. Thanks for watching Eagles Now. We love you, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.